You're in the industry at the moment working with ESPN Cricinfo. For people that aren't fortunate enough to be in the industry already, obviously they're going to be hampered by the amount of data points that are available and sort of freely, publicly available. How would you summarize the difference in what's available out there? So, there's companies like ESPN or Cricviz, obviously, that have the top tier in terms of what's available. And then there's freely available data. There's obviously a big difference, but how would you summarize sort of the levels in the industry?
A great question. So as I was growing up and trying to be in this space, ESPN Cricinfo was the only place where we could go for data. Now
Yeah.
there are a lot of people who kind of scrape data, write codes, and take data from the public domain and they try to create their own database. Yes, for the person who is trying to be an analyst, it's a very common question asked. It's not easy to get granular data. Even Cricviz, they don't have their data open to public. At least Cricinfo has Stats Guru, where you can some amount of data mining, but the kind of data analysis you do with basic data is a lot less than what you can achieve with granular data. So which is why we have a lot of people. I know there's a company called Cricviz who kind of mine data from ESPN Cricinfo's commentary and try to get ball by ball data. But there's also a few text analytics companies who mine data from commentary and try to see if they can do some work. But yes, data access to public is very limited and you can't really make major sense of it, which is why you need to join these companies. And I don't see it I don't see it also opening up too easily, because it's a lot of data which is valued and people sell this information. So they wouldn't want it to be in public domain. So whatever youngsters have to do, they'll have to do with public data, or they have to create their own mechanism to actually collect that information.
Right. Okay. So I guess what I was trying to just to clarify, there's those two levels, what's available to the top tier companies, what's freely available. Are there any companies that you're aware of that are trying to do something in the middle with, video analysis or sort of machine learning and all those types of things?
See, this is a very small space. I'm talking mainly from the Indian ecosystem. And I also know that a lot of, even Cricket Australia, for example, have hired only a company from Chennai to do their data analysis. So there are only about 3-4 companies in this space who have data, say, from 2008 to whatever we have today to actually play around with machine learning, etc. You need a good sample amount of data and granular data to make sense. So I know for the fact that these companies obviously do work on this space in machine learning, do algorithms. ESPN Cricinfo, in fact, did some work last year. We launched something called Smart Stats, which kind of measures the player impact in T20 cricket. So that was done using machine learning algorithms only. So basically, if you have that data, you have access to that, then you end up doing this. I don't see many companies starting now looking to collect data and then getting into machine learning. So one approach could be that they could be companies blooming who end up buying this information and then looking to start from the modeling part. So that I know for the fact might happen, but starting from scratch, no. So you do have these tier 1 companies, and then you have a lot of startups who are not technically into cricket analytics, but they are more into the content part.
Take the last few years, are you still hands-on technically? And if so, which tools or sort of modeling methodologies have you used mainly?
I'm more of a domain person. So I give the cricketing inputs. I give, so assume we are working with a data scientist. My job is to provide the variables, make sure what makes sense, what variables to take, what not to take, because those things matter a lot in terms of how your results are. So, but the tools predominantly used are Tableau for data visualization, R and Python for just the algorithm part. And right now, people use Excel only for as a database, but you do have SQL. The old school SQL is always there because most of the data usually resides there. So SQL queries help. So it's mainly these tools. And again, like I told you, a lot of data scientists are there who know R, Python, and Tableau. So these are essential skill sets which they all know, but maybe they lack in the domain space. So I think a combination of these two is important, and there are not many people with that skill set. And the interesting thing is, if you actually see the data science space, it's very highly paid and it's a highly skilled resource, and there are a lot of companies in other industries vying for that. So the resource you get there are very expensive, and when they come into sport, they don't want to work for such a low cost and at a low salary. It's natural. So I've been finding it very hard to find a person who's really interested in cricket and who's willing to sacrifice money and who's very good in data science. So what we do is we generally try to outsource or work with data science people, because in a way I think it works well. You don't need too many domain experts as well in cricket. Everybody's a domain expert, so the algorithm could go wrong as well. So it's a tricky balance which we need to get, and hopefully we get there.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think it's interesting. I laughed almost because as I said, I recruit within data science and analytics. And when you're talking about the pay jump of coming from, banking or retail into sport, I can very much vouch for that. I can't imagine too many people interested. But I think it takes a select brave few, like yourself, a few years ago, to make that leap to advance the industry long term.
That's the kind of mental mindset change you need, and I tell that to most students or most people who come to me for sporting advice about that mindset change. If you're willing to do that, then you're in for the long haul. And trust me, everybody seems to know cricket, right? But a lot of people kind of sometimes overestimate their knowledge, is something I've noticed. It takes a lot of, I tell most of my students that you see, Malcolm Gladwell had a 10,000 hour theory about if you do a particular job for 10,000 hours, you become an expert. And I tell people I watched cricket for 10,000 hours easily over since 1992 when I started watching the game full time. So that's how you gain knowledge. You read a lot, you watch a lot, and then you kind of become a domain expert. It just doesn't come by playing cricket. A lot of people think if I play the game, I'm an expert. It doesn't work like that in cricket analytics.
I think I mentioned this to you before, but I've been reading Cricket 2.0. I'm almost done with that book and going through many interesting podcasts, including Jared Kimber and other people from Cricinfo as well. What are some of your favorite resources within that cricket analytics space that you recommend for people that are trying to build a career within the industry?
I think there are a lot of independent individual writers, content creators. I think a lot of them are on Twitter. Just if your listeners can just go to my Twitter handle and see the people I follow, there'll be a lot of cricket analytics professionals there. I think it's still not very structured in terms of companies. Obviously, Cricviz is one, Cricinfo is one in terms of big corporates, but otherwise you have a lot of individual guys doing a lot of good work in cricket analytics space. There's not much books to actually recommend, to be honest, because nobody's really written anything in this space. And even if there are some papers available, but those really don't give a true picture of what the industry is like. It's good to just read that and maybe absorb it, and it could be there for your learning. But I don't think it's a resource which can be really used in terms of shaping up a person's career. So my advice would be to be an avid reader online, follow the right people on Twitter, read their blogs, read their work, engage in debates, engage in discussions, have a theory, try to prove that theory using numbers or using data, whatever you have, based on so many people writing different things. So that is very important. And then automatically you will also realize where you stand in terms of the cricket analytics ecosystem.
Awesome. Okay.
Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to check out more of our content, go to sporttechdaily.com or follow us on social media across Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram.